Rocky Balboa is sitting at his kitchen table, counting out $127 in crumpled bills when his brother-in-law walks through the door and calls him a bum. Says, "You're 30 years old and you got nothing. You're never going to be nothing." What happens in the next 6 months doesn't just prove Paulie wrong. It shows that the people who doubt you the loudest are usually the ones who fear your success the most. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, March 1976, Tuesday evening. 6:47 p.m. Rocky sits at a small wooden table in his tiny apartment. One bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet, bathroom with a sink that drips constantly, furniture that came with the place 20 years ago, wallpaper peeling in the corners, radiator that clangs all night but barely produces heat. This is home. This is what $110 a month gets you in South Philadelphia in 1976. Not much, but it's his. The bills are spread out in front of him. Ones, fives, tens, a few 20s, money from his last fight, club fight at the Blue Horizon. Went 6 rounds with a guy named Spider Rico. Rocky won, barely. Got $140 for the fight, minus $13 they took out for expenses that Rocky doesn't understand but doesn't question. That leaves $127, not enough to cover rent and food and utilities, not enough to live on, not enough to matter. Rocky's been fighting professionally for 11 years. Since he was 19, hundreds of fights, thousands of rounds, tens of thousands of punches thrown and received. And what does he have to show for it? $127 on a kitchen table, a beaten-up face, scar tissue around his eyes, knuckles that ache when it rains, a body that feels 50 instead of 30. And a reputation as a guy who can take a punch but never quite makes it to the top. A journeyman, a stepping stone, an opponent they bring in when they need someone tough but beatable. Rocky counts the money again. Same result, $127. Rent is due Friday. That's $110. Leaves $17 for everything else. Food, utilities, life. He's going to need another fight soon, or more work with Gazzo. Gazzo's a loan shark, employs Rocky as a collector. Rocky goes to people who owe Gazzo money and convinces them to pay. Usually just showing up is enough. Rocky's big, looks dangerous. Most people pay when they see him. The ones who don't, Rocky's supposed to break their thumbs, send a message. But Rocky never does it. Can't. He's not that guy. He'll scare people, he'll threaten, but he won't actually hurt them. Gazzo knows this, keeps Rocky around anyway because Rocky's loyal, reliable, shows up every day, does what he's told, mostly. There's a knock on the door, 3 sharp raps, aggressive knocking. Rocky knows who it is before he opens the door. Only one person knocks like that. Paulie. Rocky opens the door. Paulie stands there in a stained work jacket, jeans with holes in the knees, work boots covered in God knows what. Paulie works at a meatpacking plant. Has for 20 years. Hates it. Hates his life. Hates most things. Paulie's carrying a 6-pack of beer, already opened, 3 cans gone. It's not even 7 p.m. and Paulie's halfway drunk. Standard for a Tuesday. Paulie pushes past Rocky without being invited. Says, "What are you doing?" Rocky closes the door. Says, "Counting money." Paulie looks at the bills on the table. Laughs. That bitter laugh. Says, "That's it? That's all you got? What is that, $100? $127. Paulie sits down at the table uninvited. Opens another beer. Says, "Jesus, Rock, you're 30 years old and you got $127 to your name? That's pathetic." Rocky doesn't respond, just starts gathering up the money. Paulie's not wrong. It is pathetic. Rocky knows that, doesn't need Paulie to tell him, but Paulie's not done. Paulie's never done. He takes a long drink from his beer. Says, "You know what your problem is, Rock? You got no ambition, no drive. You're happy being a bum. Happy collecting pennies for getting your face smashed in. Happy living in this dump. You're never going to be nothing." Rocky puts the money in his pocket. Says quietly, "I ain't a bum, Paulie." "Yeah? Then what are you? A boxer? You call yourself a boxer? Real boxers make money. Real boxers got nice things, got cars, houses, women. What do you got? You got $127 and an apartment that smells like mold. You're a bum, Rock, just admit it. Rocky's jaw tightens. He's heard this speech before, many times, from Paulie, from other people, from the voice in his own head late at night when he can't sleep, the voice that says, maybe everyone's right, maybe he is wasting his life, maybe he should quit boxing, get a real job, stop pretending he's going to be somebody. But then Rocky thinks about the gym, about the feeling when his fist connects clean, about the crowd yelling his name, about the moment when he wins and proves he can do something. It's not about money, never has been. It's about being good at something, about mattering, even if it's just for 3 minutes in a boxing ring in front of 200 drunk people who forget his name the next day. For those 3 minutes, Rocky Balboa is someone. Rocky says, "Why are you here, Paulie?" Paulie finishes his beer, crushes the can, drops it on Rocky's floor, says, "I'm here because Adrian asked me to check on you, my sister, your girlfriend. The only reason someone as good as her is with someone like you. She's worried you ain't eating, worried you can't pay rent, worried you're going to end up homeless." "I ain't going to be homeless." "Yeah? How you going to pay rent with $127? That covers rent. What about food? What about heat? What about everything else?" "I'll figure it out. I always do." Paulie leans back in his chair, looks at Rocky with contempt, says, "You know what I think? I think Adrian's wasting her time with you. She could do better. She's smart, works hard, saves money. And you're a 30-year-old boxer going nowhere. You're dragging her down, Rock. She deserves someone with a future, someone who's going somewhere, not a bum who counts $127 like it's a fortune." Rocky feels anger rising, not at the insult, at the mention of Adrian. Paulie can insult Rocky all day. Rocky's used to it. But don't insult Adrian. Don't suggest she's making a mistake being with him, because Adrian is the best thing in Rocky's life, the only thing that makes sense, the only person who sees him as more than a washed-up fighter. Rocky stands up, says, "Don't talk about Adrian like that." Paulie stands up too, gets in Rocky's face, says, "I'll talk about my sister however I want, and I'm telling you, she's too good for you. She knows it. I know it. Whole neighborhood knows it. You're never going to be nothing, Rock. Never going to make real money. Never going to give her a real life. You're a bum. Always have been. Always will be." Rocky's fists clench. Every muscle in his body wants to hit Paulie, wants to shut him up, wants to make him take it back. But Rocky doesn't hit Paulie, because Paulie's Adrian's brother, because violence doesn't solve anything, because deep down, Rocky's afraid Paulie might be right. Instead, Rocky says quietly, "Get out." Paulie smirks, says, "Truth hurts, don't it?" Grabs his remaining beers, walks to the door. Before leaving, he turns back, says, "You want my advice, Rock? Quit. Quit boxing. Quit pretending you're going somewhere. Get a real job. Be realistic. Stop dreaming. Because dreams don't pay rent. And when Adrian finally wakes up and realizes she's wasting her life with you, don't say I didn't warn you." Paulie leaves, slams the door. Rocky stands there alone in his tiny apartment. The words echo. "You're a bum. Never going to be nothing. Dreams don't pay rent." Rocky walks to the window, looks out at Philadelphia, his city, the city that's watched him fail for 11 years, the city that doesn't expect anything from him, the city that's already written him off. Rocky's 30 years old. Most fighters his age are either retired or champions. Rocky's neither. He's stuck in the middle. Good enough to keep fighting. Not good enough to break through. Not good enough to matter. But then Rocky thinks about something Mickey told him once, years ago, before Mickey kicked him out of the gym. Mickey said, "Rock, you got something special. You got heart. Most fighters, when things get hard, they quit. You don't quit. You take the beating and keep coming. That's rare. That's valuable. You just need to believe in yourself. Stop listening to people who tell you what you can't do. Start listening to the voice inside that tells you what you can do." Rocky didn't listen then. Too proud, too stubborn, too convinced he could do it his way. But maybe Mickey was right. Maybe Rocky needs to stop listening to Paulie. Stop listening to the doubters. Stop listening to his own fear. Maybe he needs to believe. 3 weeks later, something impossible happens. Rocky gets a phone call. Apollo Creed's team, the heavyweight champion of the world. Creed's original opponent got injured. They need a replacement. They want Rocky, a local fighter, a nobody, someone who'll make Creed look good while losing quickly. They're offering $150,000, more money than Rocky's made in his entire life, more money than he thought existed. All he has to do is show up and fight the best heavyweight in the world. Rocky says yes, immediately, doesn't think about the odds, doesn't think about the danger, doesn't think about anything except this is his shot, his one chance, the chance he's been waiting for his entire life. When Rocky tells Paulie, Paulie laughs, says, "You're going to fight Apollo Creed? You? You're going to get killed, Rock. Literally killed. Creed's going to knock you out in one round, and everyone's going to laugh at you. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done." Rocky says, "Maybe, but I'm doing it anyway." Paulie shakes his head, says, "You're a bum, Rock, and this just proves it. Bums don't know when to quit." Rocky trains for 6 weeks, hardest training of his life. Mickey agrees to train him, teaches him how to survive, how to take Creed's punches, how to last. Rocky runs every morning, hits meat in the freezer, does everything Mickey says, pushes his body to limits he didn't know existed. Some days he wakes up and can barely move, but he keeps going, because this is his shot, his only shot. Paulie watches all this with contempt, keeps telling Rocky he's wasting his time, keeps saying Rocky's going to embarrass himself, keeps reminding Rocky that he's just a bum from South Philly who doesn't belong in the same ring as Apollo Creed. But Rocky ignores him, focuses on training, focuses on the goal. Go the distance. 15 rounds. Prove he's not a bum. Fight night arrives. November 1976. The Spectrum Arena. 19,000 people. Cameras. Lights. Chaos. Rocky walks to the ring knowing the entire world expects him to lose, knowing Apollo Creed is faster, stronger, better, knowing the odds are impossible. But Rocky doesn't care about odds. He cares about proving something. To Adrian, to Mickey, to Paulie, to himself. The fight starts. Apollo Creed comes out dancing, confident, cocky, throws combinations that Rocky's never seen before. Speed Rocky can't match. Power Rocky can barely absorb. First round is brutal. Rocky gets hit 40 times, lands 2 punches. Everyone thinks it's over. But Rocky survives, goes back to his corner. Mickey asks if he's okay. Rocky says yes. They keep fighting. Round after round, Rocky absorbs punishment, takes everything Creed throws. But he doesn't quit, doesn't fall. In the middle rounds, Rocky starts landing his own shots, gets inside, hurts Creed, makes the champion respect him, makes the crowd believe. By round 10, the impossible is happening. Rocky Balboa is competing with Apollo Creed, not just surviving, actually competing. In the crowd, Paulie watches in shock. He came to watch Rocky get destroyed, came to prove he was right, that Rocky's a bum, that Rocky doesn't belong. But what he's seeing doesn't match what he expected. He's seeing Rocky fight like a man possessed, seeing Rocky hurt the champion, seeing Rocky prove that heart matters, that belief matters, that the experts can be wrong. The fight goes all 15 rounds. Rocky lasts, accomplishes his goal, proves he's not a bum, loses on points, but wins in every way that matters. When the final bell rings, when Rocky's standing there, bloody and broken, but still standing, the entire arena is chanting his name. Rocky! 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 The local fighter who nobody gave a chance, who the experts said didn't belong, who his own brother-in-law called a bum. Standing in the ring with the heavyweight champion having earned the respect of the world. After the fight, Rocky's in the dressing room, battered, exhausted, but smiling. Adrian's there, Mickey's there. And then Paulie walks in, stands in the doorway, doesn't say anything at first, just looks at Rocky, really looks at him, sees what Rocky accomplished, sees what Rocky proved. Finally, Paulie says, "Rock, He stops, struggles with the words. pride fighting with truth. Then says, "I was wrong. I called you a bum, said you'd never be nothing. But what you did tonight, that wasn't nothing. That was something. That was really something." Rocky looks at Paulie. No anger, no resentment. Just says, "Thanks, Paulie." Paulie nods, looks at the floor, says, "I'm sorry for what I said, for doubting you, for—" He trails off, then says, "You proved me wrong, proved everyone wrong. You ain't a bum, Rock. You're—" He can't finish, too emotional. Just nods and walks out. Adrian says, "That's the first time I've ever heard Paulie apologize for anything." Rocky smiles, says, "Maybe he's learning." But the story doesn't end there, because Rocky's fight with Apollo Creed changes everything. Suddenly Rocky's famous. People recognize him, want interviews, want photos, want to be associated with him. The offers start coming in, sponsorships, speaking engagements, money, real money, enough to move out of the tiny apartment, enough to give Adrian a real life, enough to prove that dreams do pay rent. 6 months after the first Creed fight, Rocky gets a rematch. This time, Rocky's not just trying to survive, he's trying to win, and the training is even harder, the preparation more intense, the stakes higher, but Rocky's not afraid, because he already proved the most important thing. He proved he belongs. The rematch happens. April 1977, another 15 rounds, another war, but this time Rocky doesn't just last. He wins, knocks out Apollo Creed in the final round, becomes the heavyweight champion of the world. Rocky Balboa, the bum from South Philly, the guy with $127 to his name 6 months ago, now the champion. Paulie is at that fight too, in the crowd, watching Rocky celebrate, watching Rocky hold the championship belt, watching Rocky prove that the people who doubt you loudest are usually wrong. And when reporters ask Paulie what it's like to be Rocky's brother-in-law, Paulie says something surprising. Says, "I doubted him, told him he was wasting his time, called him a bum. I was wrong about everything. Rocky taught me something important, taught me that believing in yourself matters more than what anyone else thinks, taught me that dreams are worth chasing even when everyone says they're impossible. Rocky's not just a champion, he's proof that you can come from nothing and become something." The reporter asks, "Did you always believe he could do it?" Paulie pauses. Could lie, could take credit. But instead, he tells the truth. Says, "No, I didn't believe. That's my shame. But Rocky believed, and that made all the difference." Years later, after Rocky's retired, after he's had other fights and other victories, someone asks him about the people who doubted him, about Paulie calling him a bum, about everyone saying he'd never make it. Rocky thinks about it, then says, "Paulie wasn't wrong to doubt me. I gave him reasons to doubt. I was 30 years old with nothing to show for it. I was living in a tiny apartment with no future. From where Paulie was standing, I looked like a bum. The difference is I didn't let his opinion become my reality. I could have believed him, could have quit, could have accepted that I was wasting my time, but I chose to believe in something else, in myself, in my dream, in the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I could do something nobody expected." Rocky continues, "See, people who doubt you, they're not always trying to hurt you. Sometimes they're scared. Scared that if you succeed, it means they could have succeeded too, that they wasted their chances, that their excuses don't hold up." Paulie worked at a meat plant for 20 years, doing a job he hated. Could he have done something else? Maybe. But he didn't. And when he saw me chasing my dream, it reminded him that he gave up on his. That's why he called me a bum, not because I was, because he didn't want to face his own regrets. Rocky says, "So I don't hold it against Paulie. Don't hold it against anyone who doubted me, because their doubt wasn't about me. It was about them, about their fears, about their limitations, and I wasn't going to let their limitations become mine." The interviewer asks, "What would you say to someone whose brother-in-law is calling them a bum right now, whose family doesn't believe in them?" Rocky smiles, says, "I'd say this. You got two choices. You can believe them and quit. Let their words define you. Let their doubt become your reality. That's the easy choice. Or you can do what I did. Ignore them. Believe in yourself. Work harder than anyone thinks you should, and prove them wrong. Not to rub it in their face, not to make them feel bad, but to show them that belief matters, that dreams are real, that the impossible is just the improbable waiting for someone brave enough to try. Rocky continues, "When Paulie called me a bum, he was looking at my present, at the $127 on my table, at my tiny apartment, at my losing record. He couldn't see my future because he couldn't imagine it. But I could. I could see myself in that ring, see myself lasting, see myself winning. And because I could see it, I could make it real. That's the difference between people who achieve their dreams and people who don't. Not talent, not luck. Vision. The ability to see what doesn't exist yet and believe in it anyway." Someone asks, "Do you and Paulie get along now?" Rocky nods. Says, "Yeah, we're good. Actually, we're better than good, because Paulie learned something from watching me. Learned that it's never too late, that doubting others is really doubting yourself. After I became champion, Paulie started believing in himself more, started taking risks, started living instead of just existing. In a way, my success helped him more than it helped me, because it showed him what's possible when you stop making excuses." Rocky pauses, then says, "See, when you succeed despite the doubters, you don't just change your life, you change theirs. You show them that the limitations they accepted aren't real, that the excuses they made don't hold up, that they could have done more. Some people resent that, can't handle it. But some people, like Paulie, they see it, and it wakes something up, makes them want to be better, want to try harder, want to stop settling." The interview ends. Rocky walks away, but his words stay. His story stays. Because Rocky Balboa's story isn't just about boxing. It's about belief, about refusing to accept other people's opinions as facts, about working hard when nobody's watching, about proving that the biggest opponent isn't the person across the ring. It's the doubt inside your head, the voice that sounds like your brother-in-law saying you're a bum, the voice that sounds like experts saying you don't belong, the voice that sounds like fear saying you should quit. Rocky beat all those voices, not with one punch, with thousands, day after day, round after round, fight after fight, until the voices got quieter, until belief got louder, until the bum from South Philly became the champion of the world. Who's your Paulie? Who's calling you a bum? Who's telling you that you're never going to be nothing? Who's looking at your $127 and saying it's pathetic? And more importantly, are you going to let them define you? Are you going to accept their limitations as yours? Are you going to quit because they don't believe? Or are you going to do what Rocky did? Ignore them, believe anyway. Work harder than they think you should. Suffer more than they think is worth it. And prove that their doubt says more about them than it ever said about you. Because 6 months can change everything. 6 months can turn a bum into a champion. 6 months can prove that the biggest fights aren't in the ring. They're in your mind. Against the doubt. Against the fear. Against the voices saying you can't. Rocky won those fights. Every single one. Not because he was special. Because he believed he was. And that belief, that simple, stubborn refusal to accept other people's reality, made all the difference. It can make the difference for you too. The question is whether you're willing to fight for it, whether you're willing to ignore the doubters, whether you're willing to prove them wrong, not with words, with action, with results, with becoming something they said was impossible. That's what Rocky did. That's what you can do, starting right now, today, this moment. Stop listening to the Paulies in your life. Start listening to the voice inside that says you can. That voice is quieter, easier to ignore, but it's the one that matters. It's the one that's telling you the truth. You're not a bum. You're not wasting your time. Your dreams do matter. And 6 months from now, when you've proved them all wrong, you'll understand what Rocky understood. That belief isn't magic. It's fuel, and when you combine it with work, with sacrifice, with refusal to quit, it becomes unstoppable. Just like Rocky. Just like you can be.